Everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to do the rim to river hike, which is the hike from the south rim of the Grand Canyon down to the Colorado River and back in Grand Canyon National Park. Now this is a video I originally was not going to do, and I was not going to do it because this is one of the only hikes that the Park Service explicitly says not to do. Why do they say that? Because it's hard and most beginners overestimate their strength. They do this, they're unprepared, and it ends up being a search and rescue. So why am I now doing this? Well, after, I don't know, at least a dozen times down at the river, I've always seen people who are horribly unprepared for this hike. People with, wearing Vans, with no water, maybe have a backpack, maybe have a snack, maybe have sun protection. There's always people doing this anyway who are not prepared. So I figured, let me just put the video out there and the guide out there in hopes that if you are planning on doing this or you are thinking about doing this, that you are better prepared. Now, if you're an experienced hiker, if you're doing this in the winter, it's not a crazy hard hike. It's hard. It's about 16.5 miles, over 4,000 feet of climbing. It's definitely doable. It's definitely beautiful. And I think if you've done the right preparation, which means training and the preparation on the trail and having a right experience level, this is a really fun hike. So if you are going to do it, make sure you go to HikingGuy.com. I have a full guide that accompanies this video that you can check out. It's got the maps. It's got tips on what kind of gear to bring, how much water, where to get water, where there's no water, and how to kind of break the hike up. So invest a few minutes of time in preparing for the hike if you're going to do it, so that you don't become a search and rescue, cased at best or dead at worst. Anyway, that's the deal. And if you do find this video helpful, if you could do me a big favor and click the little thumbs up, it helps other people find this video. And for those other people who might be considering this, hopefully they'll find the video and know what to expect and know how to do this safely and not end up as a tragedy or a search and rescue here in the Grand Canyon. All right, guys, here's how you do the hike. All right, so we're going to start off at the South Kaibab Trail, and you're going to hop off the shuttle bus, and there's a bathroom and a water fill there, but it's always better to go beforehand. You're going to go down the paved path until you get to the official start of the South Kaibab Trail, and right here is where it is, and from here you're going to start going downhill on about a bazillion different switchbacks here. And the views obviously are beautiful when you look into the canyon here. But anyway, we're going to start heading down, and you'll get some shorter distance day hikers here going to U'a Point, so it can kind of get crowded, but eventually as you go, it'll sort of thin itself out as you head downhill here. If you look down, you'll be able to see the trail in the distance. That's where we're going to go. And this will give you an idea of what the switchbacks are like. All these trails are at least 4 feet wide. You know, mules go up here, mules pass people. You can see the switchbacks going downhill. I know some people have some apprehension about it, but it is really wide, and once you're on it for a few minutes, you get used to it. At the bottom of the switchback section, it kind of levels out for a little bit as we approach U'a Point. That's called U'a Point because the sun rises from here. You can see up onto the east part of the canyon, but the sunrises are pretty great. Here we're approaching it. We're actually going to be heading down there after we pass U'a Point, which is right up at the end where that big piece of rock is straight ahead here. And here's U'a Point. Like I said, there's a lot of people just coming here for this hike. This is a popular hike in itself, and they head back up. But soak it all in and make sure you stay on the trail. Somebody actually fell off one of the boulders here and died when they were climbing around. So, you need to be careful. Just because it's accessible doesn't mean it's necessarily safe. And here we're heading back down on those switchbacks that I showed you earlier. When we look down, that's all well graded, and you can see some of the older trail right here. When they first built the trails in the Grand Canyon, they actually did cobblestones on a lot of them and tried paving on some because they wanted tourists to easily come up and down these trails. You can see I just pointed out the layers of the rock over there. It's really beautiful. Now that's O'Neill Butte over there, and we're going to be hiking down the spine towards the butte, down towards Cedar Ridge, which is the next landmark here on the hike. And here we're on the spine. In the video, this looks a lot scarier than it is in real life. The sides are there, but there are switchbacks. It's not like if you get blown over, you're going to fall down a cliff. It's not that bad, but it just looks bad in the video. And you can see we're climbing down here. It's just always a series of switchbacks. There's never really any straight up and down here in the Grand Canyon. All right, here we are at Cedar Ridge. This is another popular day hike destination. There's some little trees, little cedar trees over here, and there's a bathroom over on the right. And no water. There's no water on the South Kaibab Trail aside from the trailhead. Now the trail can be a little bit tricky to find here. We're going to go across that flat area and go down to the right. And then we're going to start hiking down towards O'Neill Butte, which is down there in the distance. And you can see the trail winds all the way down there towards the river once we pass O'Neill Butte. Here we are at the butte. Some people go over to the side. You can kind of get a glimpse, I think, of the river from up here. Maybe if you walk around, probably not the smartest thing, but anyway, here's the trail. We're going to stay on the trail. And it kind of levels out after you go down from O'Neill Butte. You can see it's still all really easy to follow. That's the one thing about this hike and the trails here, the main quarter trails here in the Grand Canyon, is they're all very, very easy to follow and they're well trafficked. Here's the flat section as we head over towards Skeleton Point, which is right here. Now, if you want to catch a glimpse of the river, you can go up to the left for a minute or two, and there's like a little overlook over here. We'll go ahead and just do it because you can see the river. And there it is down in the distance. That's where we're going. And this little side tour is only a minute or two. But otherwise, come on back. That's where we started, way up there at the South Kaibab Trailhead. We're going to go back to where we were and then start heading down towards the next sort of landmark, which is called the Tip-Off. If you look down here, there you can see the trail winding all the way down around that big mesa right there is going to be the Tip-Off. But more switchbacks. And this is all pretty easy. You can cruise pretty quickly here. Here you can see a narrower section, but again, it's at least 4 feet wide. If you stay on the side, you'll be fine. But this whole section is very easy to cruise down, and there you can see the Tip-Off in the distance. That's another area with a bathroom. You're not going to want to be going to the bathroom like in the desert. You want to use the bathrooms because we don't want to damage the fragile ecosystem here. And here's the Tip-Off. Those rails that you see, those are mule ties. So there are mule trains occasionally that come up and down here, and sometimes they'll tie off onto those racks right there. Now the trail down from the Tip-Off kind of goes on the left-hand side of the Tip-Off. There's also an intersection with the Tonto Trail. You don't want to take that. You want to stay on this big main trail. The trail looks really small and faint. You're probably in the Tonto. But instead we're going to go down here, and once you pass the Tip-Off, you're going to get another great view of the river. There it is in the distance, Colorado, and you can see the trail winding all the way down there. Now we're going to continue downhill. There's some more switchbacks. You can see where they've blasted through the rock here to build these trails. These trails were built in the 1930s, and they were basically well, the South Kaibab, I think, was built from scratch, but the Bright Angel was an old existing Native American trail that they expanded upon. Here you can see there's some little use trails up to the mesa there. We're going to just stay off of the use trails. We're going to play it safe and continue down around towards the bottom of the Grand Canyon at the Colorado River. Here you can see we're getting close to the river. There it is in the distance. And as you go down here, there's a viewpoint where you can see the two bridges that are down here. And we're going to be hiking on both of them, actually. There's Black Bridge, which we're going to cross on the South Kaibab. And then there's the Silver Bridge, which we're going to cross when we come back up on Bright Angel. Up there is another unofficial trail. Let's stay off of that and stay on the main trail here. And keep heading down. And right here you can see the bend. There's Black Bridge, and over towards the right is Silver Bridge. Now, Black Bridge that we're going to cross in a second was the only bridge in the Grand Canyon, built in 1928 until the 1960s when the Silver Bridge was built. So it's a bit of an engineering marvel. Now when we get to the river trail junction, we're going to make the right. Now you could just go left and stay on this side of the river and hike up. The problem is you're not going to have any water for quite some time. So I always recommend, if you're going to do rim to river, that we go all the way down to Phantom Ranch. We can fill up with water, we can get some snacks, and then head back up. It's much safer. At the bottom, we're going to go through this cool tunnel. It's been blasted out. And at the end of the tunnel is Black Bridge right here. Gonna head across this. It's about 440 feet. Nice views of the river. It's nice and green today. Sometimes when there's rain, it'll be like muddy and brown. And keep your eyes out. There'll be rafters and, people coming down the river. Different expeditions. Really, really nice. I always like hanging out on the bridge for a little bit and looking down into the crystal clear water. Like you can see the bottom. Really incredible. Now we're going to go across the bridge, and the other side is a little bit funky. We're going to make a left and a right, and then we're going to come down here. There's some remains of an archaeological site. It's an old pueblo from 1,000 years ago when the natives were down here. They would live down here, I think, for part of the year. Obviously, there's water, which is nice in the desert. We're going to pass that. You can check that out. There's an emergency water. This is going to be your first water refill. If you're dying of thirst at this point, you can grab some water there, but otherwise just wait till we get to Phantom Ranch in a minute or two. But we're going to head downstream along the river to this big junction with the Bright Angel Trail. This is sort of the biggest junction here. We're going to come back through here on the way back, and you can refill with water. You can see there's trail signs. We're going to do the short stretch up to Phantom Ranch. We're going to get something to drink, have a snack, and then we're going to come back this way to head back up the south rim of the Grand Canyon. That was water right there. Now here we can go either way. If you go on the right, it's a little more shaded, but there are cabins from the personnel who live here, so please be respectful when you come through here. You can see there's some residences here, and the other side is the main trail, but it doesn't really matter where you go. You can see those guys are going down on the main trail, and we'll come back that way. But it is a little shadier up on the right-hand side when you come up. Now we're going to go up towards the end of the buildings all the way until we get to the Phantom Ranch Canteen. And you'll know it because there'll always be a group of hikers out front. And here you can get food, you can get drinks, you can get some limited supplies, Band-Aids and all of that good stuff. Hang out here, refill your water, and then we're going to head back down towards the river where we came before. And here's that split. This time let's go over on the right and head down towards Bright Angel Creek. You can see there's all kinds of attractions for people staying at Phantom Ranch. There's a little amphitheater and some stuff down here for them. But we're going to go down here. This is actually called Bright Angel Canyon because we're by the Bright Angel Creek, which is right here. And there's a bridge going across the Bright Angel campgrounds. Even though the Bright Angel Trail is on the other side of the river, it can get a little confusing, I guess, if you're not used to it. Topography and all the names of things. But when we come back down to that big junction where we were earlier, where we turned up to Phantom Ranch, this time we're going to make the hard right, go over the bridge, and head towards the Silver Bridge and the Bright Angel Trail. That's where we came down, right over there. Now this part can get a little bit tricky, and you should be filled up with water. There's some last chances to get water along here as we go, but there's some restrooms as well off to the left here. This will be your last chance to go for a while, so make sure you're all set. This next stretch up to Indian Garden is a pretty, I wouldn't say rough one, but there's no water, and it's pretty exposed, and it's known for being hot, so make sure you have your stuff together. We're going to go through and then go down to the Silver Bridge. That tube underneath is actually the pipeline that brings the water from Roaring Springs up towards the North Rim, all the way down here, up to the pump house at Indian Garden, then up to the South Rim. And all of the water you drink on the South Rim actually comes across this tube right here. We're going to cross over the river once again on the Silver Bridge, which is a neat crossing, all the way to the other side. Now, if you took the river trail for some reason, it's up. You can see beautiful, beautiful. I love crossing the river, and I love it down at the river. If you ever have a chance to stay at Phantom Ranch, it's really worth it. It's hard to get in, but when we come across the river trail that we saw earlier when we were coming down comes in from the left. But we're going to go right and head downstream for a little bit, down to a place called River Rest House, where we're going to turn in and then start hiking uphill. Now this section's nice. It can get hot. It's a little bit sandy, a little bit tough going. There's some ups and downs. There you can see the sand. But it's nice because you're on the stretch, you're closest to the river for the whole way. So if you like seeing the river, aside from going over the bridges, this is the time when you can check it out. This is also the oldest rock here in the Grand Canyon. The rock down here dates back to 2 billion years ago. 2 billion years. Pretty incredible. We're going to go up here. Again, this is a wide trail. It's not dangerous in any way. It's 4 feet. It's all pretty standard. And eventually, after about a mile and a half, I think you're going to turn in. And down there is Pipe Creek Beach. If you go down there, it's a nice sandy beach, but do not go in the water. Don't wade. It's no bueno, but we're going to go past this shed here where they do some storage. And then right past the shed is River Rest House. Now there's no water here, and I'll talk about water in the guide on HikingGuy.com and give you some strategies on when to refill. Here's the turnoff. You can go back down to the beach and visit it if you want to take a break. But otherwise we're going to go up, and there's the River Rest House, which is basically just a little shaded pavilion. And you just have to cross over Pipe Creek, which is right there if you want to go in there. It's okay, you could probably skip it. Now we're going to start climbing, heading up towards the south rim. Now in the beginning it's pretty gradual. This area is known for getting very, very hot because the rock here, which is still that 2 billion year old rock, is black. And this is a little microclimate. There's not a lot of breeze through here. It depends, I guess, but sometimes there's not breeze, and it can get really, really incredibly hot here. So make sure you're doing this at the right time of the year. And again, I'll talk about that on the website, how to plan this, when to do it, when not to do it. And I'll give you some simple guidelines there. Now we're heading uphill. We're going to be climbing up on the right-hand side there on that ridge. And sometimes you can hear people talking up there as you go. You can see the switchbacks up in front. This area is called the Devil's Corkscrew. It's a series of switchbacks. If it's really hot, it feels like you're in hell. I guess that's why they call it the Devil's Corkscrew. But it can be really, really hard, especially when it's hot. Normally, if you leave early, you get the Phantom Ranch early, and you get here, it's just starting to kind of get hot, and it can kind of take the strength out of you. There you can see the switchbacks coming up as we get to the top. Now, towards the top, it's we're going to be heading up there. It's a little bit more gradual, not as steep, and you'll get a bit of a breather as we continue up and leave Pipe Creek behind. Here you can see it's pretty mellow as we start to climb up here. And there you can look down. There you can get a good view of all the switchbacks coming up. And once we come around this bend up here, we're going to start going along Garden Creek. And you can see it down there. We leave that area where the corkscrew is. There's Garden Creek. There's a couple little waterfalls. You might hear them roaring as you come around the bend here. But from here, we have only like a shortish stretch, maybe a couple miles, up to Indian Garden. And this is a really pretty section. There's usually a lot of water here from Garden Creek, and little side streams and tributaries. And the layers of rock change as well as you go through here. I also have a guide to the rim to rim hike, and if you go to that guide, I'll put a link to it on the article. I'll tell you all about the different layers here. I'll just make it kind of simple. There are some bighorn sheep over there. There's mule deer, there's sheep. And sometimes when you get up at the Bright Angel trailhead, the sheep are really used to humans, and they'll just walk right by people. It's pretty incredible. But obviously don't feed them, and all of the normal common sense stuff that you should do. And here you can see the trail is in really good condition. We're up along Garden Creek, nice and lush and green down there. As we get towards Indian Garden, the Tonto Trail is going to join from the left over here. This is the same trail that we saw when we came down by the tip-off. If we were to go across there, that's where we would come out. But it is a primitive trail. It's not really a beginner's trail. And once you're through here, there's an interpretive display, and we are at the beginning of kind of the longish Indian Garden area. And you'll see it gets really lush as well. Here's the pump house that takes the water from that pipeline on the Silver Bridge and pumps it up to the south rim. This is also the start of an area where there's regular water. So that's a nice thing. The South Kaibab didn't have any. The Bright Angel has a lot of water breaks. And here we are at Bright Angel. There's a thermometer. It's usually a little bit higher than what it is. But we're going to make a left-hand turn here. There's some shaded pavilions. There's water refills. This is generally a good place to refill your water, have some snacks, and get ready for the effort of climbing up, which really starts in earnest at this point here. And there's toilets here as well, right up there. On the right-hand side, as we climb up here, are the all the facilities in Indian Garden. There's campgrounds, there's a ranger station, there's mule pens, but the trail kind of goes along the left-hand side of it. So you can cut through there if you'd like to, if you want to look around, but otherwise we're just going to go straight up here and then exit out the back side of Indian Garden. And basically the trail from here is a little bit uphill, but it's kind of gradual, and that's where we're going to go up in that notch there, and you can start to see the switchbacks in the distance as we climb up here. But enjoy this part, because after this it's just going to be brutally uphill. And here we go. We're starting the switchbacks, and the switchbacks between Indian Garden and the 3 Mile Rest House. It's called Jacob's Ladder. I mean, these trails are truly engineering marvels. If you look at them, I hope you can appreciate them. But we're going to go up, start the switchbacks, and it's going to get noticeably steeper. Don't feel bad if your pace gets noticeably slower. People generally fly down the South Kaibab at around 2.5–3 miles an hour and maybe go up this at 1 or 1.5 miles an hour. That's kind of the norm, I think, for most hikers. You can start to see all the different layers as we make our way up towards the 3 Mile Rest House. Here you can go. Here you can see a couple of guys taking a rest. That's how it is. Generally, you kind of slot in with a group of people if you're taking breaks, and you'll kind of piggyback each other taking breaks going up there. Now, after about 1.5 miles from Indian Garden, you're going to see the 3 Mile Rest House up in the distance. There's water there, there's toilets, and a shaded little structure where you can take it easy. Now, the actual rest house is back to the left here. If you want to fill up, you have to go back to the left or go to the bathroom. And if you want to go up the trail, we're going to be going straight right here. And you can see the trail go up there, and we're going to actually be going up into that kind of notch that you see in the distance all the time. Now, there's not a lot to say about this stretch aside from that it's steep. There's a ton of switchbacks. Take your time. You know, depending on where the sun is, there's sometimes a shady spot. So if you do take a break, you can usually find a place in the shade. There's the notch that we're going towards in the distance. And we're going to keep on doing the switchbacks. You can kind of get an idea from my pace here that it's tough. Especially when you consider you've just hiked maybe 14 miles or so. It's a tough day. Beautiful views. You can see the trail winding up there. That's part of the beauty of this hike, is that you can see the trail in front of you, but sometimes it can be mentally tough. You just have to keep going and just tell yourself one step after another. Now, up there was the 1.5 mile rest house. On the left-hand side back there was the bathroom. The bathroom's off to the left, but the rest house is off to the right. So there it is. If you want to make that left-hand turn to the bathroom, you can, but otherwise make the right-hand turn to the water and the actual rest house, which is right here. The water's before the rest house, and then here is the rest house where you can hop in there and have some shade. You can see people are taking advantage of the shade on the side of the trail here. And there's a nice little sign. And the good news at this point is you only have 1.5 miles left. It's all uphill, but it's only 1.5 miles. And when you get to around this point, you can sometimes hear people talking on the South Rim too, tourists who are up there and laughing and stuff. So it's encouraging. I like looking down from here. You can get beautiful views down at Indian Garden where you came up. It's sort of the patch of green down in the middle of the desert as you look down and climb. Not too far to go at this point. That's where we're going, right up there. And just think, when you go and do other hikes after this, you can look up and say, you know, I've done this already. And, you know, once you have this under your belt, you can have confidence that you can do some other hikes. And when you go through the first tunnel, you have about a mile to go. You can see some of those little holes in the wall. Those are from the dynamite that was used to blast out of there, blast the tunnel through. And then after that, again, more uphill. There's a little old side trail that they've marked off so that you don't accidentally go down there. There you can see the trail going up there. We have one more tunnel and then we're at the end. And you can actually see the structures at this point. You can see Kolb Studio and some of the structures up on the South Rim. One last tunnel. And when you get here, you're going to see a lot of people just kind of dipping their toe in from the South Rim, maybe not doing a long hike, but just kind of checking it all out. But at this point, you've only got a couple minutes left before you get to the top. Now there's a junction here. There's a trail back to the left that goes to Kolb Studio. We're not going to do that. We're going to go straight and end it at the official trailhead, which is right here. And that is rim to river. And this is the Bright Angel Trailhead. Get up here, there's a nice sign over on the side that says Bright Angel Trail. People usually take pictures with it. You can get your water, pat yourself in the back. You did it. So that's the hike. And again, please go to the guide on HikingGuy.com, read the whole thing, know what you're getting into, know all the considerations, and feel confident in what you're about to undertake before you do the hike. Now, if you stick around for a second, I'll show you what the hike looks like on a map so you can kind of get a lay of the land and know where you're hiking and know where you're going down, know where you're coming up. And again, another tool to feel more confident in the hike. And if you are going to do it, guys, please, please be safe. Let somebody know that you are hiking. Carry an inReach if you have it and turn the tracking on. And, you know, realize that this is a hike where people have lost their lives. So you need to take it seriously. All right, guys, I'll see you out there. Bye. Okay, so here's the route. Basically, it's sort of a V shape. We start at South Kaibab, down to Phantom Ranch, and then back up. Now, from this angle, it doesn't look steep at all, but if we swing it around, you're going to get a different idea. Here you can see, get an idea of the effort involved coming down here. But anyway, let's go ahead and walk you through here. From South Kaibab, we're at Ooh-Ah, and you can see we follow basically the spine of this ridge down. Here's Cedar Ridge. We go past here. Here's Skeleton Point. That was the first point where we could see the Colorado River. And if we look over here, you can kind of see there's the river. That's where we see it. Then from there, we have all of these downhills. Kind of gets flat at this tip-off area. And then this was the other viewpoint right over here, where we were able to see the river down there. Here were those big, wide, sweeping turns. And then we come over towards the river and we have the series of switchbacks bringing us all the way down to Black Bridge. We cross over, head along the river, up Bright Angel Canyon to Phantom Ranch, and then back down. We go downstream a little bit, over Silver Bridge, and then we have the portion of the trail that follows the river. If I go in a little bit here, you can kind of see it's rolling. It's definitely not flat, but it's not tough. It's not a big climb. We go all the way down the river till we get to the Pipe Creek Rest House, or the River Rest House, and then we start going uphill. If I swing this up, you get an idea of the enormity of what we have to do here. That's the route going up. So, you know, it's tough. It's tough, and you know, people do it, but just know what you're getting into. Now we're going to go up Pipe Creek. We're going to go up the Devil's Corkscrew right here, and then the trail winds around, and then we join Garden Creek, which is this creek right over here, and we head up Garden Creek. You can see that it's an oasis of green as we go all the way up back to Indian Garden. And I mentioned the Tonto Trail before. This is the Tonto Trail that comes and joins in over here. Anyway, Indian Garden, we're here. And now we go through. You can see this is all the lush area where the creek is. And it's all irrigated these days too. And on the right-hand side is where all of the campgrounds and the facilities are. We're going to go up along the left. And then once we leave here, we have a little bit of a, I won't say easy time, but a gradual time. And then we have a section of switchbacks called Jacob's Ladder right here to the 3 Mile Rest House. And then up from the 3 Mile Rest House, we have more switchbacks all the way up to the 1 Mile Rest House. And if I zoom us out a little bit, you can see we have a couple more switchbacks to go up. We have some long, windy ones. We have the first tunnel, and then we have the second tunnel up here. And then finally, the last little stretch up to the trailhead, and that's the hike.